Fact students, this is Mrs. Suki. Now this week I'm going to be showing you a recipe, but it's not going to be something that you have to do for an assignment. This is just something that we would typically make in our quarter at school, but with it getting cut short this year, I wanted to go and show you some of the other recipes that we would do, and then if you'd like to try them at home, then that's awesome. Today helping me, I'm going to have my son, Kason. So say hi, Kason.
Hi.
He is going to be helping me today make these cake mix cookies. One of the first things we're going to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, we've been using our stovetop. This is the first time we're going to be using the oven today. And so when you use an oven, you're going to see a lot of times that a recipe is going to tell you to preheat it. That means to heat your oven up ahead of time. That way when our cookies are ready to go, we can put them in the oven right away. So preheating is very important. It says preheat to 350. Now your oven and stove at home is going to be different than the one I have here. And so mine is just a dial that I twist to 350. Yours at home may be buttons. Just have a parent help you if you've never used your oven to make sure you know how to preheat it. So I'm going to do that first, got that done, and now we're going to start with our mix. The first thing we're going to do is mix our cake mix. Now, cake mix cookies you can make with any type of cake mix, any flavor. So there's so many different combinations that you can make. You could use strawberry, chocolate, red velvet, vanilla. Today we're using a rainbow chip cake mix, and all it is a cake mix, eggs, and oil. So 3 ingredients, really simple. But first we're going to put our cake mix in a bowl. When you open a cake mix, if you try to pull it open this way, it can pop open and then you're gonna have flour and cake mix go all over the place. So the best thing to do is to actually take a pair of scissors and just cut a corner off of the bag, like so. That way you can just pour it into your mixing bowl and then it won't make a mess. So, Kason, would you go ahead and do that for me? Go ahead and pour that into my mixing bowl. After that, we are going to go ahead and add in our eggs. Now, last week, we talked about eggs and making sure that you crack the eggs in the middle. So again, it's the same thing. I don't want to really crack it on my bowl because I don't want the shell to get in with the cake mix. So just on the countertop and then your thumbs in and pull it apart. All right, Kason, you want to do the next egg?
Yep.
Crack it in the middle, put your thumbs in and pull it apart. Okay, then shell goes in the trash. So cake mix, 2 eggs, and now we need to measure out a 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. So you need to get your liquid measuring cup. We are then going to take your vegetable oil, pour it in the liquid measuring cup, and we need to measure out what says a 1/2 cup. So again, look at the right portion on your liquid measuring cup and find where it says 1/2. And we're gonna go ahead and pour that in. Kason's gonna get an eye level here and tell me when it looks good. You can come closer so I can.
Yeah, it's still good. You can keep going.
A little more?
Yeah. A little more?
Okay, yep, it does need a little bit more.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Now, if I were to accidentally pour too much in, I could take this and pour it back in. As we were doing this, Kason kept telling me I need a little more, but he was getting at eye level. He was back behind here getting at eye level to make sure I had the right portion. But if you get a little extra in, you can pour it back into your bottle of. Okay, so Kason, go ahead and pour our oil in to our bowl. So now we have our cake mix, we have our oil, and we have our eggs, and we need to mix this up. To mix this up, we're just going to use a spoon. This is making a cookie mix. I know I said it's a cake mix cookie with a cake mix, but cake mixes are really runny and it would make like a big cake. These are gonna make cookies, so whatever you do, don't follow the directions on the box, because the directions on the box are for a cake. And we're not making cake, we're making cookies. So make sure you follow the recipe that I will show you in Canvas to make the cake mix cookies. But it is just 1 cake mix, 2 eggs, half a cup of oil. Now we're gonna mix it up with a spoon. We don't wanna use a whisk because a whisk is for liquid ingredients, and this is gonna be a lot thicker. So Kason, let's get to stirring. You just wanna stir it up until all the ingredients are thoroughly combined and it starts to make a batter. The other thing you're gonna get ready is you're gonna get some type of a cookie sheet or a baking sheet to put your cookies on. Here at home, I have a nice flat cookie sheet that we're gonna use. A lot of times in the FACS kitchen when we're cooking at school, I'll have you guys get out parchment paper. Parchment paper is a paper that you can put on a cookie sheet or baking sheet that protects it and makes it really easy for cleanup. I don't have any parchment paper here at my house, so it's perfectly fine to make our cookies here on this cookie sheet. I'll just have to do the dishes when we're done. So, all right, let's look at how this batter is coming around. You want to mix this up until it's completely combined. So I should not see any more pieces of dry cake mix. The one thing about the cake mix cookies that's really neat is because you can make so many different kinds with the different flavors, but you can add in stuff as well. If I wanted to add in sprinkles or chocolate chips or raisins or coconut, there's all sorts of different ingredients that you could add into a cake mix cookie and make it a whole bunch of different ways. The possibilities are kind of endless. So that's what's kind of cool with this. All right, as you can see, he's got our batter nice and stirred up, and it's ready to be made into cookies. Now we are going to be taking our cookie scoop. This looks a lot like an ice cream scoop. In fact, some people think that it is an ice cream scoop, but an ice cream scoop is actually much bigger. A cookie scoop is small. And we're going to take this and we're going to scoop out portions of dough onto our cookie sheet. I'll just scoop it in and then onto the cookie sheet. We want to space these about 1 or 2 inches apart because these cookies will grow and bake, and we don't want them to be too close together. So if you can see on my cookie sheet right now, I have 2 of them and they're spaced about 2 inches apart. I'm going to have Kason keep helping me while I talk to you a little bit more. He's going to go ahead and fill this up with the cookie batter. So Kason, if you want to go ahead and finish. The reason why I like to use a cookie scoop is because scooping out cookies just using like a regular spoon would be really hard to keep the cookies the same size. And the reason why that is important, because when we put cookies in the oven and bake them, if we have a teeny tiny cookie and a really big cookie, the big cookie is going to take a lot longer to bake, where the tiny cookie is going to cook really fast. So if your cookies are all the same size, then they're all going to bake at the same time, get done at the same time, and we don't have a burnt cookie or an undercooked cookie. So the cookie scoop is awesome because now we know our cookies are exactly the same size. But if you don't have a cookie scoop at home, it's perfectly fine to take your stirring spoon, for example, like this, and you could scoop that out onto your cookie sheet if you needed to. If you don't have a cookie scoop, that's fine. I would not use an ice cream scoop for this because, like I said, ice cream scoops are really big and you'd have like monster big cookies and it would take a really long time to bake and they may not even get done in the middle. So like I said, you don't have a cookie scoop, no big deal. Just take like a regular spoon and kind of spoon them and just try to make them the same size as close as you can to possible. Now he's finishing up the last cookie on this sheet. On my recipe, it says that we are going to bake these for 10 to 12 minutes. On a recipe, if it tells you a certain time, like 10 to 12, you always want to set it for the lowest amount of time. So I'm going to start at 10 minutes and we'll set the timer and we'll check them. And then once we check them at 10 minutes, we can decide if they need to go in a little bit longer. But if I set my timer for 12 minutes and they're burnt, then you're out of luck. So always start with the lowest time. Here's my cookie sheet. You can notice that we have them all spaced nice and evenly. We got 3, 6, 9 cookies on this sheet. We still have enough batter in this bowl that we're gonna be able to make more, but I'm gonna go ahead and put this sheet in with your oven. Unfortunately, I'm not at a very good angle for you to see it, but I'm gonna open it up. You're gonna wanna put these in the middle tier of your oven. Typically, that's where your shelf usually is, because if your shelf is really up high, your cookies will bake too much on the top. If you put them too far down below, then they're gonna burn at the bottoms. And so we want this to kind of go in the middle of the oven so that way it's getting heated evenly. Put that in. Now notice, I did not use a oven mitt to put this in the oven. Because I'm just putting it in the oven, I didn't really have to, but as a beginner cook, it probably wouldn't hurt to go ahead and get that oven mitt on. We definitely want to use our oven mitt when we pull them out of the oven because that pan is going to be hot. But I've seen a lot of kids get really nervous putting stuff in an oven because of the hot temperature. So you can put that oven mitt on, put it in the oven, and then we'll use that oven mitt again when we take the cookies out. Okay, set my timer. I got my timer. We're gonna set this for 10 minutes. And make sure it starts. Now you may need a parent to help you. Again, if you've not ever used your oven, have them show you, how do I set my timer? So that way you know. I encourage you to set a timer because when you're cooking, this has happened to me, this has happened to my husband a lot. We just decide, oh, we're gonna start cooking and we're not gonna set a timer, we'll just come back in a few minutes. Well, you start watching TV or you get on your phone or someone calls you or you get distracted and then 20 minutes goes by and you have burnt cookies. So definitely set a timer because you can easily get distracted when you're baking and forget like how long it was before you put those in. So I got that set for 10 minutes. I'm gonna pause this video because you don't wanna sit here and look at me for 10 minutes. And then I'll kind of show you what they look like as the end result. So be watching and give me a few minutes and I'll be back with the end result. All right, we are back and I'm going to show you what our finished cookies look like. Now, after 10 minutes, I checked them and they still weren't quite done yet, so I did let them go in for about 2 more minutes. But what I'm looking for is we want to look for, especially with the vanilla cookies like this, you can see when they start to turn kind of a golden brown color around the outside and that way they're cooked all the way through. When you have like red velvet or chocolate cookies, sometimes those are a little bit harder to tell. This is a cake mix cookie, so they're gonna be soft. That's how they're supposed to be. It's not like a hard, crunchy cookie. They're made from cake mix, so they will be a softer cookie. Had my oven mitt out. I went ahead and put my second batch in. Now with these cookies, you wanna let them set for at least 1 or 2 minutes before you transfer them onto a cooling rack. The cooling rack will allow the cookies so they won't keep baking because your baking sheet is hot. And if you leave them on there, they can continue to bake at the bottom. So we're gonna transfer them after about a minute or two because right out of the oven, they're gonna be super soft. And if you try to scoop them up, they're gonna fall apart. So I've waited a couple minutes and then I'm gonna take a spatula. Oh, the other thing is, because this has happened in my classroom, people forget that this sheet is still hot and they'll take the oven mitt off and then they'll go back and they'll touch the cookie sheet and burn themselves. So make sure you keep your oven mitt on. But spatula, we're gonna take each cookie and they are going to be put onto a cooling rack. After they cool for a few minutes, they will be ready to eat and enjoy. And I wanna thank my assistant, Kason, today with a cookie. What do you think? Did you do good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you get a chance, go make some cake mix cookies and try different combinations and different add-ins. I think you're really gonna like them. They're really easy, simple, and quick. Go out and cook something.